Hi everyone, how you guys doing tonight? There's Austin. So everyone, I know you're probably used to seeing Ariana here hosting it, and I just want to thank all of you guys that are joining us today, all the men and women that are watching. If it's your first time here, then you probably don't know who I am. You probably don't know who Austin is. Probably haven't seen us before. For those of you that are returning, thank you again for joining us for another webinar. Tonight's webinar, we're going to go over the importance of simulator training and how fantastic that is for you to be better prepared if, God forbid, there is an actual real life situation that you have to defend yourself, defend your family. And so I apologize. I know I'm not Ariana. I'm going to do my best to host this. I know you guys that know me. You've seen me on here plenty of times as one of the actual guests on the webinar. I'm one of the directors for Firearms Legal Protection. I'm a firearms instructor, but we're not going over my background tonight. Tonight I'm hosting. This is all about Austin Davis and his expert opinion. And Austin really is the perfect person to be discussing this. Aside from his incredible background and resume, which I'll let him explain to you guys that don't know who he is already, for the last 12 years, he has been doing this training with simulators, and he has trained thousands and thousands of civilians, law enforcement, instructors, maybe some instructors that you guys have already had teaching you in one of your courses that you've taken. There's nobody I can think of that's better to discuss this topic than this man right here. Austin just is a wealth of knowledge, and a lot of you already know that if you've seen him on other webinars. So again, 12 years of doing this simulator training. So definitely make sure you listen to what he has to say tonight about the importance of it. As always, we're going to have a Q&A at the end. And so we already have some pre-submitted questions that we received from a lot of you. But feel free in the comment section. If you have any questions that pop up, go ahead and post those comments. And when we get to the end for the Q&A, we will definitely help answer all those questions for you guys. Some of them, if they're not completely pertaining to this, I will do my best to try to answer some in the comment section if it will let me. Again, I'm not Ariana, so I'm doing my best to make sure I don't mess up anything or the videos, and that you guys get to see Austin here take care of all this for you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Austin and let him tell you all about him, and then we can get started with tonight's webinar.
Hello, my FLP family. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. First off, thank you, John, because you don't understand out there in our video land. John and I are like two chimpanzees with sticks poking at a box. So the fact that there's actually showing up, John, you are like the man. So well done. Hey, I'm glad y'all tuned in this month for this month's topic. It is something very near and dear to my heart. And some of my opinions may ruffle some feathers. So if you'll just kind of hang with me until the end, let's see how it goes. Now, when you think of training, we think of standing still and shooting a piece of paper in a well-lit, well-controlled environment. And that is excellent training for standing still and shooting a piece of paper in a well-lit, well-controlled environment in one direction. It has very little crossover to a real-life event. Reality-based simulator training to me is not just some little widget that I think about. It's really kind of the whole core of how I've been training really since about 2010, 2011. I'm the owner of the Virtual Tactical Academy. I've traveled the United States, probably done like 47 out of the 50 states. Hey, Hawaii. Hey, Alaska. I'd still like to come see you. And when I bring out my simulator and do these classes, it's amazing what I see. Also, I'm an alert instructor. I hold all 7 certifications for alert. In case you don't know, alert is the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training. It is the gold standard for teaching law enforcement to deal with active shooters. And so, sorry, I had some sort of pop-up I had to deal with. And when we do that, we use simunitions and we use face protection and we shoot each other. And I've spent a lot of time being downrange and gunfighting with a lot of cops, hiding and doing things like a terrorist. Also, I do a lot of things with de-escalation that are scenario-based that have nothing to do with guns. I'm an ICAT, that's a police-specific de-escalation training. We do a lot of scenario training with that. So when we talk about simulation training, this is not just some little catchphrase I picked up. This is something I'm involved with a lot. Now, why do I'm such a big fan of simulator training or reality-based training, if you don't mind? My whole purpose for the last 30 years is to train law enforcement corporations and people just like you for what I call the test. Now, The test. The reason we bought guns, the reason we watch webinars on nights like tonight is to get ready for the test. Now, when the test shows up, I don't know if the test is going to be a clear, which means it's going to have a simple problem and a simple solution. I don't know if it's going to be complicated where it has the problem is clear, but the solution takes expertise. I don't know if it's going to be complex to where the problem is unclear and there's multiple factors that need to be sorted out, or it's going to be chaos. Bam, you are presented with a situation for whatever reason, and you have just got to react in the quickest, fastest way with probably limited amounts of time and limited amounts of information. The other problem with the test, the reason we carry guns, we watch webinars like this and go to training, is because when the test comes, I don't know what your test is going to be like. Not only do I not know what it's going to be like, I don't know if it's going to be you alone. If John and I are having lunch in a restaurant and it starts getting robbed, that's one situation. And how I'm going to react, how John's going to react, how John and I will probably react together instinctively will be very different than if I'm having lunch with my 89-year-old mother. It'll be very different how I'm dealing with it when I'm dealing with dinner and how there's a robbery in the restaurant, and I've got my wife who is not a gun person, not technically trained. So when this happens, I don't know if you're going to be well lit. I don't know if it's going to be rainy. I don't know if it's going to be cold. I don't know if you're going to have a sinus infection that day. I don't know what the conditions are, but I need to do everything I can to get you prepared for what's going to happen. And one thing I've noticed after 30 plus years now training police officers, law enforcement corporations, everybody you can imagine, is after an incident, it's the fastest cure for the most dangerous disease in the self-defense world. And that disease is called it will never happen to me. Because once it does happen to you, you realize that, yeah, it happens to people like you and me every day. And when I say you and me, I'm in that same group. And when that happens, those are my best students. Those are the ones who book the classes. Those are the ones who try to drag their friends to it. And hopefully, the problem is a lot of people say, well, experience is the best teacher. And I kind of disagree with that, because in my world, the problem with experience is it gives the test first, the lesson second. If we can do reality-based training, we hopefully can get you the lesson first and skip the test. So what is the best way for us to go ahead and train for the unpredictable? It's reality-based training or realistic scenarios. What is reality-based training? That's when I try to take a triangle of the person, the task, the relevant task, and the environment and put them in together. Let's go back to my original statement that I made at the beginning of this webinar. Standing still and shooting a piece of paper in a well-lit, well-controlled environment at a piece of paper that's not moving in a same safe direction with a solid backstop has very little crossover for anything in the real world. It's excellent training for shooting a piece of paper in a well-lit, well-controlled environment. When I get in my classes, I try to explain this. Now, this is kind of hard on video, so just kind of hang with me. If you know what a 2x4 is, the board, I've got a 12-foot 2x4. Let's say I put this 2x4 down and I say to you, I say personally, I say, you, come here. So we're going to do a little game. 2x4s on the ground. I got a big bucket full of $100 bills. Every time you walk to the end of this 12-foot 2x4 and don't fall off, turn around, I give you a $100 bill. Walk to the end, give you a $100 bill. Walk to the end, give you a $100 bill. You can do that until you fall off, then the game stops. Would y'all play that game? Heck yeah. How much money would you make doing that, walking that 12-foot thing back and forth till you fall off? I don't know, probably have a new pickup truck or some rental property. But if I took that same 12-foot board and I put it 60 feet in the air and no net, even if it was solid, as if it was on ground, I put it in a clamp and I said, how about playing the game now? What's interesting is a lot of people wouldn't be able to do it, or you'd see them just stutter and then they'd have a real inclination to fall off. We know they have the skill to walk on the board, but the problem is any behavior not learned under stress can't be recalled under stress. And what I've noticed is after doing this for years and years and thousands of people in simunition gunfights where they've got the helmets to protect them, or the virtual simulator where I've got over 1,000 scenarios, I can watch their eyes, or role-playing scenarios of people that don't involve weapons, what I noticed is a lot of times what I see in these realistic scenarios is behaviors popping out that are really puzzling. It is not uncommon, and I think John probably saw this when he saw me do VTA, is to watch people hold the gun like this when they grab in a scenario. And I always stop at that point and I go, what exactly are you doing? And they go, I don't know. They've never trained that way. They've never shot a semi-automatic that way, because when you put your thumb behind the slide, it makes it the world's most complicated single shot pistol. But what happens is that's really the first time they've ever shot a gun under stress. Therefore, it's almost like the first time they've ever shot a gun. And since none of their training was done under duress, under stress, in a situation to where they had to go to procedural memory, they really were working off not a program response, but a primal response. So what I need to do is I need to be able to put you in a high fidelity situation, a place where your brain can't tell the difference between a real and a carefully imagined event. Now, before I go very deep in that, let me tell you why a virtual reality simulator works so well. Have you ever been to the movies, watching a movie at home, and your favorite actor is, in a high building or trying to get out of a fire and some sort of dramatic thing, and you find yourself, your palms are sweating, you're getting uncomfortable. You know that actor has got cameras back there and a truck with food called a craft truck and all kinds of sound people and lighting people, but you're still having a physiological response. And the reason is our primitive brains can't tell the difference between a really high fidelity image that perceived as real and a real event. So the closer I can make this training, the better. Also, I want you to think about it. Whether you go to a gun range to shoot a piece of paper, or whether you go to a live fire shooting school where you line everybody up, like we do for police training, qualification, I should say, and we sit there and shoot, that's the lowest cognitive behavior possible. You're told when to load your gun, when to unload your gun, when to holster, when to draw, how many rounds to fire, how many rounds to not fire, when to start, when to stop, when to move. And when you're doing most of your shooting, you can't move forward, backwards, left, or right because you'll shoot the person in front of you, behind you, or get shot. So I've got to find a way to put you in a reality-based situation that can get you through a critical situation. Now, I've written 3 books. I've written one on de-escalation, situational awareness, and low-light fighting. And I'm writing a 4th book right now. And that book's called Guns Don't Win Gunfights. Now, before you get all locked up in this thing, guns don't win gunfights. If this is sitting on a table, it doesn't win a gunfight. It is actually the skill set of the person who holds the firearm that wins the gunfight. So what does win a gunfight? There are 3 things. And if you do not have these 3 things, and if they are not trained well, and if they're not trained to a level of automaticity where they actually come out under stress, and you were trained under stress, you can't win a gunfight. If you do, it was luck, not skill. And there are many people that get by with luck. I know I've been training officers for most of my adult life, and they'll get through a gunfight and go, see, I had skill. No, you had luck. Don't confuse luck with skill. But there are 3 things we need to survive a gunfight. The first thing is we need to be skilled decision makers. The second thing is we have to have solid procedural skills. And if that sort of throws you off, just think solid automatic physical skills. And the third thing is we have to have emotional control. If we do not have all 3 of these things, trained decision makers, solid procedural skills, and emotional control, we are again relying on luck. So let's break these down all one at a time. First off, skilled decision maker. The first thing is one of the things I hear a lot of times from my officers and my non-commissioned non-sworn people. I hate saying civilians because really there's sworn officers and there's non-sworn people, but there are no civilians. We're all civilians. It happened so fast. I looked up and there they were. Man, they popped up out of nowhere. All these things tell me they probably didn't have a really good situational awareness. Now, there are some true ambush situations where, bam, someone pops out of a position of domination and concealment and you're faced right on there. It's the chaotic situation of the test. But most of the time we can see things coming. And if you have a good sense of situational awareness, what this is going to allow you to do is to see things earlier, to read, recognize, and be able to respond. And the faster we do that, the more time we have. The more time we have, the easier it is to make decisions. Because what happens is time gives us options, and options gives us ability to get out of this a little safer. Now, when we talk about trained decision maker, there's also another thing, and that is, other than situational awareness, we also have to understand there's only 3 variables we ever control in a dynamic, and that is time, distance, and angles. Time. Do you want to act now or wait? See, a lot of times if somebody's got a gun right on you and you think, I'll outdraw them, you're basically just getting ready to have them shoot you. You may need to wait your time. Or there may be a situation where you go, hey, they turned their head, they turned their attention. I got to go now. Distance. Do you want to get closer or farther away? Sometimes if they're fumbling with their waistband and you're not sure if it's a cell phone or a weapon, you may want to close the distance, wrap them up and take them to the ground and sort this out there. Or you may want to get some more distance away. And then angles. Even if you're out in the middle of a field and there's nothing for cover, concealment, or barricading in, just getting off the line of attack can make a huge difference, especially if you're dealing with people you don't know in public. I like thinking about making a semicircle arc. So when they come up to me and they ask me for $1, do you know the way to the store? Do you have a jumper, cables, or whatever? Hey, no, think I can't help you. I like starting to arc off so I keep my eyes on them, but then I get to see what's going on around me. But if these behaviors aren't drilled, they aren't skilled, they aren't rehearsed under some sort of perceived threat and some sort of pressure constraint, they're probably not going to pop out in the real world. You see, our brain has two different parts to it. It has declarative memory, it has procedural memory. Declarative memory is that part of your long-term memory that you've got to think to access it. If I said right now was 8 times 7 and then plus 14, you'd have to think of that. But procedural memory is that stuff that is so wired into your ability to perform it, you don't even think about it. Classic example for me, maybe you, is you ever drive down the street and you think, did I put the garage door down? Did I lock the front door? You know you did, but you just did it such an automatic pilot, your brain didn't even register it. And we need those skill sets down in there. So when it comes time to think about situational awareness, time, distance, or angles, also the big four. Decision makers really do well when you get in a stressful situation and you've been trained through situational awareness for the big four. Now, I want you to think about decision making. When it comes to use of force, we only have 4 options. It's really pretty simple. We try to make this hard. And the problem making it hard is like, I don't know if y'all know what this is or not, but I'm old and I do. It's a Rolodex. It's a big spinny thing with cards in it. You may have 10,000 Rolodexes. Me in a crisis, I've got like 4 or 5 at most, and they're brightly colored and they're sticking up. And for me, when I'm in a situation, whether it's law enforcement or a non-sworn situation out in the real world, I've only got 4 things I can do. I can leave, I can talk, I can use force, I can use deadly force. And unfortunately, for most of my legally armed good people, we think, I got a gun. If they mess with me, I'll just shoot them. Well, first off, when I put you in my scenarios, a lot of the wins in a scenario are just leaving, because there's so many situations that we end up escalating this stuff and spinning this up and getting involved with egos, not our amigo. And we end up being in a problem. We just could have left. Next thing is talk. And when people talk, and we'll talk about this in a second, we discuss de-escalation, human beings only communicate 2 ways, force or reason. As long as you can reason with them, you don't have to use force. And skillful verbal commands are a trained skill. And solid decision makers already have those things figured out beforehand. We'll talk about verbal commands later on. Use force. If you've ever watched one of my Concealed Coalition University episodes, if you're not a Concealed Coalition University member, you should be. My pepper spray class, I come out with a line, and I've been a certified pepper spray instructor since 1992. Made a lot of grown men cry in my life. About 85% of the time, in my opinion, your gun is 100% the wrong tool, because a lot of times what we need is not deadly force, we need ordinary force. And you want to throw hands at somebody, more power to you. But I have a prehensile thumb and a well-developed prefrontal cortex. I like a tool. So for me, I'm just grabbing a pepper spray and I'm blessing with the hot sauce. So having the ability to understand that sometimes I need to leave, sometimes I need to talk, sometimes I may have to use force, which could be hands. You may not have the ability to get your pepper spray, or it may not be a situation where you allowed to have hands, and then use deadly force. And knowing where those are and being able to decide it is a huge factor in you being a whole lot safer. De-escalation. De-escalation, a lot of times we think it's something we do to people. De-escalation is really, if it's verbal de-escalation, it's kind of like a pizza. Hey, you want a pizza? It's something we offer. It's hot, fresh, and delicious. It's better than the other options. But de-escalation can be verbal, where you talk them on down, got a whole book on the subject, got a whole lesson plan and Concealed Coalition University about it. But also de-escalation can be you using proper verbal commands. It also can be pepper spray. It can also be ordinary force. And you may have to de-escalate with deadly force, and knowing where that line is very difficult. And the problem is when we start talking about use of force and mindset, the real problem with all that is we don't understand in a procedural way down deep. If you have to stop and think, wow, this is a verbal de-escalation. Is this something I need to, this needs to be something that you intrinsically learn. And what's really interesting is how fast you can learn this in a well-controlled environment. And what I like about a simulator is everybody else is watching the person going through it. So the person going through it learns something, but the people watching learn even more. It's kind of like the first Top Gun. I don't know if you remember that, but the reason for the Top Gun fighter weapons school is because if we got through 5 simulated dogfights, they do better in the real world. Well, my experience after all these years, and many students who reported back to me after an incident, is going through a simulator scenario is really good. And just like in the first Top Gun, I'll never leave my wingman. There's some lessons I can teach you that are single event learning that just really locked down. I was at a function last week. I had somebody who was in one of my classes 10 years ago. Somebody was asking me what I do, and I was kind of explaining. He walked up and goes, let me tell you, I was in this class in 2015 and this, and this happened. And I was like, wow, that person, I barely remembered him, to be honest with you, still had those lessons in there. So Also, when you think about de-escalation, you think about where you want to de-escalate, you better have some personal boundaries figured out, some personal rules of engagement. When I get kitted up and I get ready to go on patrol for the night, as I'm putting on my gear, I've got to go through my head and go, okay, when I stop to get gas on the way or grab a cup of coffee, my rules of engagement as a uniformed police officer can be very different than when I'm getting ready to go out to dinner into town with my wife, and we're all dressed up, and I've got a firearm, I've got a flashlight, I got pepper spray. She doesn't have any of that stuff. My rules of engagement change. I'm going to have lunch with John Brand. Let me tell you, my rules of engagement are going to change. Some of you have people that you're in charge of keeping responsibility for and who are unable to defend themselves. And so you need to think, if something does happen, they need to be close to you, they need to be far away. Who exactly am I there to protect? And I always call it my big core five. There should be five people. Maybe some of you got 10, but five people that you don't need to know anything about. If somebody's pointing a gun at them or threatening them, you can take action. For me, it's my mother, my wife, my brother, my son, my daughter. Boom, done. There we go. Anybody else got to figure out. And that's also a big one that most people don't think about when they think about using simulation. Is one of the things I throw in a lot is handling third person interventions. Let me tell you, you need to really know what you're going to do and have that set up beforehand and train in realistic situations. Because when I put you on the simulator, I'll put you in situations you end up in a gunfight in a third person scenario. And when I ask you, why are you even in this? Why are you in the gunfight? You will look at me and go, I don't know. But we have some very carefully planned out things so that before you start, you understand that, hey, there are people that I will protect and there's people that I won't. We need to know the difference. So once you've trained in decision making, the next part is solid procedural skills. If you have to stop to think about how to clear your garment, how to get a good grip, how to make sure that you know where you're looking. Are you going to be sight focused? Are you going to be target focused because your eyes are not in the same plane and they have a point of intersection? And this is not the time for you to start thinking, am I going to slam this trigger like it owes me money and it wants to date my sister? Or am I going to control it? How fast am I going to shoot? Am I going to shoot emotionally or am I going to shoot under control? Where's my wobble zone? You should know that beforehand. I'm pretty clear about what I can shoot when I've got a good solid rest and I'm supported on something with my handgun. I know what I can do when I'm freestyle. I know what I can draw when I pull my gun out and shoot on perfect days. I know what I can do when I intelligently work cover and the area of reliability. So if you know that, say that at 20 yards, you really can't hit a man-sized target or control your rounds. You're either going to have to not shoot or you have to move yourself forward to where that is. And part of that procedural thing is knowing instinctively, yes, I can make this shot under ideal conditions. But what's really interesting is if you ever watch a lot of body cameras, we see officers shooting at some suspect running 75 yards away from left to right or right to left. I'm thinking, dude, you couldn't make that shot on a good day. Why are you doing this now under stress when we know that under stress, your skills are going to degrade to somewhat? So knowing your wobble zone is pretty helpful. Also, you want to make sure that you practice instinctively moving to cover. One of the hardest things is I invented this gadget called the CCAT, Cover Concealment Angle Trainer. I own the patent for it. It's sold like crazy in the last about 10 years now. I invented it right after July 2016 when the Dallas Police Department got shot up when they were doing some value work protecting a parade. And one officer lost his life. And I thought, watching the video in my office, I was crushed. I said, we don't train enough for officers to move towards cover. And when you come to my school, I've got this device. It's 2 panels and they work out to about 4 feet by 6 feet. And they simulate doors and they've got windows on them and everything else. And even though before we start a scenario, I go, look, if you have a problem, here's your doorway, just get back in here. Or this is something that simulates this and this and this. And I have you go back there. The minute you're in it, you don't go to it instinctively. And the reason why is because how many times have you pulled a gun and thought, oh my gosh, I really need to get behind cover. And when people do get behind cover, if they never worked it out, they do this sort of weird body angle thing around the corner instead of just leaning in, getting nose over toes, working off the front foot the way they should, whether working left or right. All that needs to be figured out so that it just happens naturally. But if you haven't trained, you haven't connected it, remember neurons that wire together, fire together. If you haven't put those together, if all you've done is silo training, not interleaving training, silos where we just learn to shoot, silo trainings learn just get behind cover, silo trainings where you just sit in a class and learn about law. But if you put them all together, that's interleaving. And that's what reality training is about. It's about putting all these things together. So you have to do the mental preparation, the procedural, and the emotional control of it all. Also, we talk about solid procedural skills, pepper spray. It's really interesting. I have a family member who's been carrying pepper spray for a long time. Every couple of years, I get them in a unit. Finally, one day, something hit me, and I said, you know what? It's been a while since they've been to my pepper spray class. I said, let's go out in the backyard, let you spray it. They went, they couldn't get it to spray because you have to lift the thumb up and put it down. Just the pressure of just saying, hey, spray that fence for me at that distance they had forgotten about how to flip that. So that was a procedural skill that wasn't even in there. They were essentially carrying a good luck charm because if they never need to use it, they had no way of deploying it because, again, it wasn't in procedural skills. One final thing is in procedural skills is your verbal commands need to be automatic. It is amazing. If I'm in a room full of people doing the scenarios on my simulator, my officers do verbal commands really well. We point guns at people and get commands with verbal abilities forever. The problem is for civilians, most people have never talked in the range, never talked to the gun in their hand, they never had to process with these in their hands. When it comes to verbal commands, remember there's basically three things you're trying to do with the verbal command. Freeze them, okay? Don't move. In this situation, you are so far behind the curve, you just need to stop for a second so you can catch on up. Pin them, which means you're not really caring what they do with their hands. Just don't put that hand near the pocket. Don't come close to the kids. Don't get close to that bat. Don't get close to the car. Leave this building. So you're trying to just go, look, I'm trying to keep them from moving in that one spot. Then you want to move them. And that is, hey, face away from me, walk to the door, leave, you come back in. I'm going to use force. But if you don't practice these verbal commands and they don't come out automatically in that procedural part of your brain, if you don't train with that under pressure, it won't come out under pressure. And I see this in my alert classes. I see this in my VTA. I see this when I train my officers. I see it in my ICAT classes. Heck, I even see it in my Stop the Bleed where they don't want to talk to the victim when they're working on it. So I'm a Stop the Bleed instructor as well. And then finally, emotional control. And I talked about this earlier, but if you ever watch a lot of police shootings, and I love my cops, I'm third generation cop. That's my grandfather up there, one of the first motorcycle cops in the Houston Police Department. But a lot of times these officers get involved and they're just bullet dumping. When you have to shoot, we need to make sure that you have emotional control. The reason you need to have emotional control is because when we're in a situation, if we run out of the ability to keep our emotions in check, we don't make good decisions. The procedural stuff probably won't happen. And what's going to happen is we go into this sort of intellectual fetal position. And so to do that, there's some things we can solve. First off, spiritual fitness. Before I leave on patrol, I make sure everything's fine with the wife, fine with me. I don't go on patrol if there's any kind of hang up, because I know if I have a problem that night, something goes wrong, I don't want the last thought to be, man, I said something ugly to my wife, or we're sideways. If you ever hang out with me and my friends, I hug all my friends when I leave them, and all my friends are male because I'm a married guy. But what's interesting is I know that, hey, if something happens to me on patrol or I'm a skydiver and my parachute malfunctions, it's okay, because my friends know that I love them. Last time they saw me, I had a smile on my face and I hugged them. Make sure that you got the spiritual fitness dialed in. Also, you need to understand that when you have that stress response, there's no such thing as, really, in my opinion, for most people, unless you're on a tier 1 kind of unit, really stress inoculation. There is stress orientation and there's stress cope. I'm a skydiver, been skydiving for about 20 years, and it's still very scary to go jump out of a perfectly good airplane. And then within 15 seconds of the end of it all, stop the suicide. What's interesting is it's still as scary for me as when I started back in 2001. The problem though is even though the effects still happen, I understand them and I work with them. And one of the ways I work with them is when I start to feel those effects, we can think of it one of two ways. We can think of it as a threat state or a challenge state. And if I can get your mindset in situational, in scenario-based training, reality-based training, to begin to start thinking of it as a challenge state, not a threat state, things happen. Now, I don't know if you know what alert training is all about, but we give the officers basic work. Then we were in some sort of school, church, hospital, some sort of office building, and we have scenarios. We have role players down the way who, when you come on down, they're going to shoot you. That's my job. I'm the guy down there who gets to gunfight with the cops. It's really kind of entertaining. But also one of the jobs is I've got to get the officers ready, prepped. I got to tell them what the scenario is going to be, then launch them and send them on down. What I noticed is a lot of times I'd have officers that would charge so fast to the threat that they'd leave these other people behind. And I started trying to figure out what exactly is going on here. What happened is those officers who were charging towards the threat, those people are looking at a challenge state that, hey, somebody's killing kids. I'm going to go fix this. I got a gun. I got the training. I'm prepared to handle this. I'm going to go for it. The rest of them are going, oh my gosh, I'm going to get shot. What I found though was when they were kitting up and they're getting all the protective gear on, which is always a high stress event for most of them anyways. They put throat protectors on, groin protectors and gloves. And I'm getting ready. I always tell them, look, I said, are you the hunter or the rabbit in this deal? If you're the hunter, go down there. Somebody's killing kids. We need a good guy with a gun. We need a good girl with a gun. Go solve this thing. But I'm scared. Hey, Those kids need you. Focus on end result. Focus on what you're going to do to them, not what's going to happen to you. And if I can get them to change from that threat, from threat to challenge mindset, all of a sudden I don't have one officer leading the pack and three hiding behind. I got four ripping down there. And what I've noticed when you go to that challenge state mindset is they tend to shoot with more control. They tend to treat every round as if it was a decision of use of force, which is what we need to be. Because if you start hosing away, remember, opportunity is this window that opens and closes. Immediacy is this window that opens and closes. And if you come in there and you point the gun at him, he drops the gun, throws his hands up, you can't go shoot him. You need to be able to put the brakes on that thing. And that is emotional control. Also, what happens is we need to get your breathing under control. What's really interesting is how many times we get to a scenario and they'll start clawing at their mask. I can't breathe in this mask, can't breathe in this mask. Trust me, you can breathe in this mask. What's happened is they went, threat, and they've held their breath. And what happens is that heart is increasing. And then what happens is when that happens, their carbon dioxide level goes up in their body, their brain stops functioning. If you can start getting in training scenarios and learning to breathe and control your breathing, box breathing, combat breathing, skip breathing, whatever you want to do, any of it works as long as you're using it. But it doesn't work if you learn it in a PowerPoint or you learn it in a classroom. You got to put it in context and feel it. And when you're getting ready to skydive and you feel the effects coming on, I start my square box breathing. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out, hold 4, 4 in, hold 4, hold. You just work it out. And all of a sudden, comes on down. The more I practice it, the more it becomes a stimulus response for me. So now I've almost got it down to where I just kind of go, I get 2 big breaths, charge on out, and I feel fine. So however you want to work this breathing control is on you, but the results that you're going to get depend on how much you put that in context. So it just sort of pops out without you even thinking about it. We talked about a lot, and there's a lot of things we could go on about. The whole point of reality-based training is we give you the person, we give you the environment you're operating in, and the relevant task you have to operate. So if we give you a scenario, but all of a sudden put it in low light, we need to be able to go, well, what do I do now when I have a handheld light and a gun in my hand? How do those two things work? That's a completely different task in a completely different environment from you being in daylight. If we train you for one person that doesn't move, but all of a sudden I got 2 guys who are trying to flank you and your kids in a parking lot, that's something we need to train for. We need to think for. If you've never worked on getting over towards cover and working it intelligently, that's something we got to train for. So how do we do it? We have a couple of options. Number one, if you can, come to Houston. Right now I'm not traveling, but I have a fixed location here. Come to my virtual tactical academy, contact FLP and say, I've got a really big church group. I got a really big business. I got a really good gun club. Have them fly me up there. My gear all packs in a Pelican case. I don't travel happy, but I will travel. Okay, I'm just the point now where I've traveled for so many years. But if you have a really good group, I'd love to come on out. Let me spend about 4, 5, 6 hours with your group. Let's run through a bunch of scenarios and let's see what happens. If you want to do the simunition stuff and you want to put on the mask and the guns and everything else, that's really great as long as there's a couple things. Number one, we account for accuracy. Number two, you understand that the problem I've got with putting on the mask and all the gear, and trust me, I'm a Texas reality-based police instructor, certified instructor, the whole bit. But the problem is I can't read the facial expressions. So I find that a lot of times this turns into a game of tag with a gun. And, the thing about shooting is it really takes decision-making, procedural skills, and emotional control. And so much of that is something you get to feed off what people are hearing or saying. And basically behind the mask, you really can't hear what they're saying. You can't really read their facial expressions. And I find that ability not to read the facial expressions, and also everyone is going to end up as a shoot situation. To where when you come to my VTA, I assure you that when it comes to leave, talk, use force, use deadly force, you're going to find that about 1/4 of the time you just need to leave, 1/4 of the time you need to talk, about 1/4 of the time you need to use force. We have a virtual pepper spray. And then about 1/4 of the time you need to shoot. And we need to make sure you put that in there, because if all your training is just, I see people, boom, got a gun, I shoot, we have a real problem. Trust me. We are entering in some of the most complicated situations we've ever had in self-defense. There's never been much latitude for making a mistake in a self-defense incident. That's why we all have FLP coverage. I wouldn't carry a gun if I didn't have FLP. Wouldn't let my wife carry a gun when she carries a gun, FLP. She doesn't carry very often, but trust me, I wouldn't let her carry it all if she didn't have one. My son, my brother, just wouldn't happen. But the problem is that is the fight after the fight. We still have to do good before the fight. And remember, guns don't win gunfights. People who make good trained decisions, solid procedural skills, and can stay in emotional control, they do. And to wrap it all up, as I always like to leave you with, be a guardian always and a warrior when needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Austin. And I know we always appreciate your insight and your expert knowledge that you have. And I love watching you and learning from you as well. And I can testify to the fact that yes, if you know Austin and when he's saying goodbye or even hello, you will get a hug. I have been hugged so many times by Austin. He's just such a great guy, and I really appreciate you being here with us tonight to kind of go over this topic on the importance of simulator training and just the importance of continuing your training all the time. I mean, like Austin, Austin still trains all the time and still takes training courses and still learns from other instructors. I do too. I've taught thousands of students, and I tell all my students that I'm an eternal student. I don't care how many students that I train or teach over the years, that every year I take more training courses with other instructors. I've been with Austin multiple times, and, I appreciate that he's not too worried for me if he and I are together in a restaurant. But, Austin, if you see something I don't, you still can go ahead and defend me. I would appreciate that.
I know you put in the work. That's 99% of it. Not all the people I have dinner with, I know are going to put in the work. I appreciate your comment, though, about being the eternal student. In 2024, there was 21 weeks I was in training out of the 52 weeks out the year. I had about 450 documented hours. And this year's been a light year training for me. And I'm probably somewhere about 275 hours of instructor level courses. That's me going in as a student to learn to teach this, or this. Plus, every time we teach, as John, you'll know, when you teach something, you learn it twice. And it's amazing how deep you go into a subject when you teach it. But we always have to go back to the well, find new things. And, one thing I always like to say, if you're ever looking for a good instructor, whether it's a licensed to carry instructor or a reality-based training instructor or a stop the lead instructor, ask them one question. What did you believe and teach 5 years ago that you don't believe and don't teach today? If they go, nothing, I know everything, get another instructor. Okay. Yep. That's the same with a doctor, a plumber, anybody. We should always be learning and reevaluating and not holding on to any of our little nuggets. As new information comes in, hey, we got to adopt new stuff. And let me tell you what, reality-based training is not new, but for civilians, it might be a new topic for a lot of y'all. And I really hope you embrace it, but be careful who you pick for an instructor. This isn't about a game of gotcha or tag with simunitions. It needs to be very structured and rule-based.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And I'm sure some of you that are watching, if you've been on here before, you've heard me say it. One thing I say to my students all the time when they're dealing with an instructor is ask your instructor, ask them what's the last class they took or what's the next class they're looking forward to taking. And if they don't have an answer to either one of those questions, find a different instructor. Because like Austin says, that's someone who already thinks they know everything. And that's why I'm an eternal student. I always learn more from other instructors. It makes me a better student, but it also helps make me a better instructor for my students.
Can I add one to that? Can I add one to that?
Absolutely.
Ask them what last class they went to, what are the class looking forward to? Also ask them, is there any class coming up you're not looking forward to? Next month is my 2-year annual renewal that I've got to go every 2 years to TASER instructor class. I'm not looking forward to this. Okay. I had 2 years ago, I had to do my police pepper spray instructor renewal class. I had to do my TASER instructor and baton instructor. And I'm like going, look, I've been sprayed. I've been tased. I've been beaten with a stick. What is left? Are they going to hit me with a patrol car next? But someone shoot me with your gun. That's all I got left. It was amazing.
Well, at least you're only getting tased and not pepper sprayed also, because everyone I know would rather be tased again than pepper sprayed again.
If you've never been tased, let me tell you a little quick story. Last time I got tased, I was walking around the next morning and my wife goes, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "I feel amazing." When they tased me the last time, I got hit in the back of the thigh and the upper shoulder, and my body just went like this so hard. Even my feet went like that, my hands. So the next morning, I'm like, everything was popping. Next morning, I'm going, God, I went to like a really great chiropractor. I may have to, like, if I get hinked up again, go get, honey, can you shoot me again? Get the right distance. So taser is no big deal. It's that quick, it's over. And you're right, pepper spray is not that big. But if we haven't done a pepper spray webinar, we may need to do another one again in a while. If you know how to get sprayed with pepper spray, which I've been sprayed every couple of years since 1992, I get this stuff sorted out. I can show you how to get sprayed, and it's not as bad as you think.
So that it won't last into the next day.
Won't last the next day. I can get you sorted out pretty fast if you know a few tricks. There's some good decon tricks I can teach you. Hopefully no scummy people are watching this, but I assume we all have good guys.
Yeah, no, they should be. I mean, for the most part, most of them are FLP members. We might have a couple of people watching that don't have our protection yet. And if you don't, make sure you click the link below in the caption and you can sign up for Firearms Legal Protection, get our amazing protection, have all your attorney fees covered if, God forbid, something happens to you. And if you use that link, you'll get our protection for a lower discounted rate. We do have some pre-submitted questions. I didn't see anything come through in the comments, more just them thanking you for your teaching and your training. So I didn't see an actual question come through, but we do have the pre-submitted ones, and they're definitely tailored towards your expertise, especially with the training simulator, if you want to answer some of those.
Okay, let's do it, man.
So let's see here. The first one. So what are the most common mistakes you see people make during simulations?
Not taking the L. Not taking the L. Let me tell you what. It is amazing. There's either growth mindset or fixed mindset people in this world. And some of you may know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you're a fixed mindset person. Some people just come in this world and they go, I know all I need to know. And when they come to the simulator, if they lose in the simulator, they take it personally and they give me all these, they're not rational, they're rationalizing people reasons why. Growth mindset goes, man, I bought that one, man. I'll take the loss. Then I go, hey, not a problem. Where do you think you went wrong in this? Do you want to run the scenario again? Yes. We run it until they get it absolutely perfect. So take the L when there's a problem. Remember, you're not trying to beat the simulator. You're trying to find where your limits are. So run yourself to the right end of it. When you take the L in this thing, remember, it is a laser pistol. There's no live firearms in my training area. Take the L, go back, run the scenario again. Do not be afraid to lose. The other thing is thinking the goal is to win. It's not to win. When you go into realistic scenario-based training, it is about like going into an escape room, okay? It's not trying to win a video game. You're trying to figure out how I move in the situation so that I understand, should I have left? Should I have talked? Should I have used force? Should I use deadly force? When I had cover available, do I need to get closer or farther? Do I need to act now? Do I act later? Do I need to move behind cover? Also, the I-wrap formula, you know, there's 5 things. John, you probably thought about this before. I had people ask you, how can you go all over the country and talk about state-specific laws? Because anywhere you go in the United States, it's probably going to be 5 things. I-wrap. Were you innocent? Did you start this thing? Come over here. I wish a fool would. I got a gun. Was it imminent? It means it's going to happen right now. Was your response reasonable, subjectively and objectively? That's I-wrap. And was it avoidable? There you go. I got stand my ground. I got cast doctrine. Look, dude, if you can shut the door, you can drive away. Juries love that. The best fight you're ever going to win is the one you never had. If violence is proportional, the guy slapped you and you shot him. Oh, come on. Did he say something to you and you shot him? Oh, come on. So you want to be able to put those things in the context of it. So the big thing, take the L, run this on through, and then try to put this into all the different formulas in this. It's not just about did I shoot him or not? Did I do the right thing? Did I overshoot? Did I miss a target? Am I responsible for those other things? Look at the big picture, take the L and grow from the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, honestly, if you're going to fail anywhere, and it's going to happen with the 1,000+ simulations that you can run, some of them are designed specifically to trip you up and to teach you so that your mindset will change so that you are better prepared if, God forbid, it happens to you in real life. So where do you want to fail? You want to fail when you're doing that real life scenario-based training with these simulators. That's the point of where you should fail, because where you don't want to fail is in real life. So if you're going to make a mistake, let it happen during the training with the simulator. And it's going to train your mindset and make you better prepared for real life.
And when you own it in the middle of the scenario, go, man, I screwed up. I shouldn't have gotten involved. That was a third-party incident, and I didn't have the knowledge to handle that. Or you know, this was avoidable. I should have just left the situation. When you own that, you get to take that with you into the real world. When you negate it and go, well, I wouldn't be in this situation, or I wouldn't have done that. You don't own that. Then when I'm not around you and this situation happens, you didn't earn that. You got to go earn that lesson and learn it the hard way. And grading the simulators is not a problem as long as we're not shooting each other with simunitions, which can hurt. Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, they don't feel great. I still have a scar from one actually.
So. Duluth Trading Company fire hose pants. Tip from the pro. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had one that snuck in between the protective gear and left a little scar on my leg. So. It's okay though. It's not that bad.
Went to a jacket and oozed for 2 weeks.
I've been shot by them without wearing. I had the helmet, but I didn't have the chest protective gear on, and I got shot by them. I mean, it's not that bad, but one of them, yeah, it left a little scar.
Depends on the standoff distance. If they're in close, they zap you. And also, we do a lot of training with the rifle sims, which are traveling a lot faster.
Oh, yeah. The pistol ones are going around like 340, 350 feet per second, but the rifle ones, they're moving around close to 500 feet per second, and they can hurt.
And if you're training, also be very weather conscious. If it's really hot, the gun won't run reliably. If it's really cold, those things don't break and they hit harder. So just something to think about. So if you get a chance, heat is good. Gun jam's great, no problem. If it's cold and it's just beating on you, something else. What else we got? Let's do the next one.
Let's see. We got How often should someone continue defensive or simulator-based training?
As long as you want to carry a gun and you want to operate in a high risk, high threat environment that demands a high cognitive load. It is something we never are good enough. I have been training for 30 plus years now. I've never had one of my officers come back to me after an event and go, Instructor Davis, I really overprepared for that gunfight. Yep. Instructor Davis, I wish you wouldn't have spent so much time at the range mastering my firearm. Instructor Davis, I wish I wouldn't have spent so much time in visualization. Never heard that. And as you know, John, the best students we have are the ones who've been in a bad situation and then they come into class, because those are the people that take this stuff seriously. They will take the L. They do not mind looking bad to get good. So how long did you continue it? As long as you come doing that. The day that you're no longer in that marketplace to defend yourself and you're going to outsource your safety, great. But until then, more training, more better. As long as it's quality training, because not all training is quality. And remember, practice doesn't make perfect; it makes permanent. So if you're practicing crap and it's just some sort of gotcha game with somebody who hadn't really spent time with adult learning theory and doesn't understand the philosophy of what you're trying to teach them, it turns into just a bing, 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 bing. You can build some bad habits very quickly.
Absolutely. We got this one, and it's why is decision-making training just as important as shooting accuracy?
I'm all about fast and accurate shooting. The problem I've got is if you're a IPDA or a competitive gun gamer, more power to you. Love the stuff, and you're doing great. The problem is do not get in the habit of shooting faster than you can process threats. When I get these people are telling me about their build drill and their split times, I'm going, you understand every trigger of the pull needs to be a complete total use of force decision. So I cannot shoot fast so I can process thing. And the problem is I need you to be able to process faster. And I need you to be able to have some situation awareness to process earlier. It's called game theory. And that is expert performers don't necessarily perform faster. They perform earlier. They position themselves beforehand to be in a more advantageous place. And the only way to do that is to be in an environment that, again, max the person, the environment, and the relevant task so that you can learn to have that spatial situation. Classic example, you ever heard of the OODA loop? Observe, orient, decide, and act. The partner, whenever practices, orient. Where am I going to put myself to where I'm in a position of advantage? Where are they in a position of advantage? So, we need to be thinkers before shooters, to quote Travis Haley. I hate to steal a line, but it's the right line. You need to be a thinker before a shooter. It's not the gun that wins the gunfight.
Yep, absolutely. And we've got this one. What advice would you give to someone nervous about taking their first simulator session?
You are the luckiest student I get. When you show up all jacked up, my job is to bring you down a little bit. But as I bring you down to that working ratio, I need to start you to figure out what are those cues that are telling you this is threat, not challenge based. I need to go ahead and get some time to look you right in the eye and get you calmed down. And I'm going to give you a really simple, very, very clear scenario. Simple problem, simple solution. Have you solve it? Then after you have a shooting situation, we always have you call 911 because the 911 is the most important phone call of your life. We never practice it. We practice that. And as you're working through there, I can pace it so you work on through. So all of a sudden you go, if you're ever in a real situation, you go, yes, I know what these things feel like, and I understand. I can use this as fuel if I project it correctly and make it a challenge state, not a threat state. And I felt that before I can work through it. If it's the first time you ever felt this thing, it's overwhelming. You work into a dark hole. You go into the sort of intellectual fetal position. So being nervous is positive. Take the loss. It's great, man. And what you're going to understand is if you have a good instructor and the instructor's controlling the crowd is pulling with you. I've got them cheering for you when you get ready. I go, Sneer's getting ready. You see me do this. I'm like, everybody show some love to John. Show some love to John. Because what I want you to feel is this incredible love from the room, because I set the room up where I go, look, John is your brother, your father, your neighbor, your best friend, and he's out here saving you. You've got to be pulling for him. I need the crowd emotionally invested in how well John's doing. And by doing that, they actually learn better, and it actually makes it single event learning. It puts it in procedural memory. So if you're nervous, just make sure you pick the right instructor. Come see me. We'll work you through it. But that's a plus. Those people come in and go, it's just a video game. I'm just here to look good. Put it on the gram. They're not learning anything. So the people that are scared, you're in the right spot. Your brain is open and receptive to single event learning. Kind of like you ever throw up a certain kind of liquor and all of a sudden you smell Jack Daniels. Is like, ooh, not for me. I had that once. Or you burn yourself on a hot stove. You don't need to know that you don't want to touch that cookie sheet without checking it before you pick it up again. So there are things called single event learning, and I can get you a lot of those in a short amount of time with a simulator. in a group. And you really do want to take your simulator training in a group of people. And you'll also notice, if you ever watch me, is by the time I get to the end of the class is teaching the student on where they have mistakes and where they're going. And remember, anytime we're in the middle of this thing, I always stop them and go, hey, John, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you thinking right now? Because there's a million ways to do the right thing. You tell me I'm doing this because of this, this, this. I'm like, never thought of that. Keep going. But a lot of times I'll go, hey, John, have you ever thought about this, this, and this? No. Hey, how about we stop this, run the scenario again, and let you work through this thing. And instead of trying to muscle through it and go through primal responses, let's do a program response, see how it works. And remember, all my scenarios are branching videos so that I can make them pull a gun, a cup of coffee, comply, not comply, run away. So out of those 1,000 scenarios, I've got another 8,000 or 9,000 options. So I can run the same class, the same scenario for 7, 8 students and never have the same outcome in any of them. So even though we run you back to the scenario, I'll change it something because I'm tricky that way.
Yeah, it's really cool. For if any of you have ever done it that are watching, that's awesome. You know what I'm talking about, but it is really a lot of fun, and just learning all the different scenarios, and it just gets you better prepared for, like I said, if God forbid something happens out there in the real world to you, you're going to be able to make better decisions. And then the last one we've got here is, does simulator training help people make more legally sound decisions under stress?
Oh, this is why I love this group. I'm telling you, my FLP people, y'all are smarter than your average bear. That's a brilliant question. Yes. The problem is, remember, we have 2 types of memories. We have declarative and we have procedural. The problem is, when you're in your LTC class, you're learning this declarative memory. There's no time in the middle of the gunfight for you to start thinking, okay, chapter 9 was use of force. How does this relate to, you need to be instinctive. And for John, I think you'll agree with this. It's really simple. Are you innocent? Is the threat imminent? Is it reason what you're doing getting very reasonable, avoidable, and proportional? And the only way for you to really remember those is to remember them, then see them work through in different scenarios, have you work through them and work under stress so that you visually see what's going on. You know when, hey, the imminence is over. You know when you could avoid this thing by, remember, we can walk, talk, use force, use deadly force. All those things need to be combined in. You have to learn them in context. Real quick, there's silo training where you learn to shoot. There's silo training you learn law. There's silo training you learn how to function behind a piece of cover and go to a piece of cover. The problem is, if those are learned individually, they don't stick together. Things that are wired together fire together, called Hebb's law. So I've got to have you thinking about the legal part, shooting the legal part. I got to have you going to cover all in the same scenario. You have to be able to function all those things, because remember, it's about building thinkers, not shooters. The shooting is very easy. That's the easy part. It is really being a decision maker, procedural skills, and remaining emotional control. This part right here, that's easy. When to pull it, when not to pull it, when to shoot, when not to shoot, when to point, when not to point. These are all different things. And if you have to add verbal to it, that's a heavy task load. We got to get you performing at a high cognitive level.
Yep. No, absolutely. And that was the last one they had. That was from the pre-submitted, and another comment came up. Just again thanking you, and so yeah,
no
we didn't.
Questions. I'm that efficient in 35 minutes or an hour. Oh my gosh, I feel like I didn't do my job. I didn't do my job, guys. Do me a favor. If you have a really large group that you want me to come on out, we'll do virtual tactical academy, and then also I am a pretty spiffy stop the bleed instructor. And remember, if we spend enough time around guns, sooner or later we're gonna have to know how to patch gun holes, bullet holes, and then also motorcycle crashes, car crashes, chainsaws, whatnot. We'll do a stop the bleed VTA class, make it a day. It's a lot of fun. It's a laugh and learn environment. I'm a former professional stand-up comedian, so there's a lot of laughter. I keep it moving really well. I can control the level of stress on you, so if we get you too high, you don't learn. We get you too low, you don't learn. Keep you right in that sweet spot so we get single event learning. So find me a big group, send me out there. You got John's contact information. FLP will put me on an airplane, or hopefully we'll keep it in Texas. I can just drive there in my fancy Jeep.
Yeah. So, I mean, as always, I want to thank everybody for watching. And, these are always recorded. Our webinars, we always record them. So if you want to go back and check out the information again, if there was something that Austin said tonight, they're like, oh, what was it that he said? So you can check it out on YouTube, on Facebook. They're usually posted within a couple days onto our Firearms Legal Protection account. And so you can still go back and check it, or if you want to share it with friends or family and let them hear all the expert advice that we got from Austin tonight. And Austin, as always, thank you for being on a webinar with us and joining us yet again. I always love, hearing you and learning from you too. So I hope everyone else.
I'm sorry I'm not in the room with you, because how would we separate? Get a big hug, man. I like to think I hug beyond my weight. So yeah.
And then, yeah, for those of you that are interested, if you are interested in having Austin, and come with the simulator and do training for a big group, or if you can make it out to him in Houston, or if you're interested in that Concealed Coalition online training membership that he was mentioning. So I have that also. So they have a bunch of online courses that you can just do at home on your laptop, your desktop, your phone. I'd probably use laptop or desktop, something a little bit bigger screen. But it is amazing. I haven't done all of the online courses yet, but I've completed about half of them so far. And it's just more continuing education. But if any of you are interested in any of that, by all means, send an email to us. It's just marketing@firearmslegal.com. Don't add the firearms legal protection, just marketing@firearmslegal.com. Don't add the protection part from the name of our company on there. And we'd be happy to get you that information, how you can get in touch with Austin if you have a big group that you're wanting this for and you want to do this training with him. I definitely highly recommend it. And, for me, I always like to do more training with Austin. So whenever I have the opportunity, and luckily for me, he only lives about 4.5, 5 hours from me. So I can drive out to Houston and
Texas is down the street.
Yeah. Well, for some people, they're in a new state, but this is Texas, so we'll drive for 15 hours and still be in Texas. And again, I know a lot of you are already members with FLP, but for those of you that don't have our protection, remember there's going to be a link in the comments there and in the caption below, and you can click on that link and you can get our protection for a lower discounted rate. So if you don't already have it, make sure you do that. And I always tell people, if for whatever reason you don't have our protection, please get somebody's. Have something. We have the best legal protection. We know it. We'll take the Pepsi challenge with any company out there. But if for whatever reason you don't have us, please have somebody and make sure that you are covered and you are protected. Austin, is there anything else that you want to add?
Nope. Just guys, stay safe out there. If you have any questions, send it through them. It'll get to me. If not, go to Concealed Coalition, ask them, they'll get it to me. But remember, we're in some challenging times. Never been much margin given for error in a defensive use of force. Today, there's essentially none. You need to be ready for the fight after the fight, but getting through the fight is not that easy in itself. But if you do survive the fight, you're going to need a fight after the fight. And trust me, FLB can do that. If I can help you anywhere in the fight, let me know.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, everyone, stay safe out there. And Austin, you summed it up perfectly, because that is literally the FLP motto. Our motto is protect yourself, we'll protect you. It's that simple.
Good night, guys. Stay safe.
You guys have a great night.
Hey, man, good show.